the Export Credit Insurance Corporation, your export risk partner. I'm chatting now to Mrs. Portia Gumbo-Dube, who is the Head of Business Development at the ECIC. Portia, thank you so much for your time. So you're Head of Business Development at this company. Just tell us what your role entails on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, so this is a recently formed unit, and we're responsible for deal origination on behalf of the Export Credit Insurance Corporation. In the past, we relied on financial institutions coming through and bringing transactions. As you can see, the markets have changed, the markets are slowing down, and there's a lot of competition from private insurers, other ECAs as well that are venturing on the continent. And it became imperative that we are proactive in terms of attracting or creating opportunities for South African manufacturers as well as financiers that we can cover to drive exports onto the rest of the continent from South Africa.
So you mentioned deal origination. In the current economic environment, what is activity like from your perspective?
Well, obviously, with the South African economy a bit slow at the moment, and you find that companies will rethink about investing. So that's one of the challenges, and we're supporting South African exporters. The second issue is not a lack of deals, because the transactions are there. It's finding bankable deals. So we have to ensure that the deal is well structured and is robust and that it can actually pay for itself. Providing an insurance wrap doesn't mean that it's a sticker or a cover to ensure that we just do the deal. At the end of the day, it still needs to pay for itself, and we have to ensure that we are working on bankable transactions because we are a South African institution. We have to use taxpayers' funds responsibly in terms of how we apply them.
Looking at appetite, you mentioned that obviously you represent South African companies. What sort of appetite is there to go into the rest of the continent?
I think there is significant appetite. What we do find is that a lot of institutions are not aware of the support that we provide. So we find that a lot of companies become aware of us when they are in trouble, or they want to approach us when the deal is commenced. And this is one of the reasons why this unit was formed, to make sure that we are making ourselves known locally as well as regionally, to make sure that the buyers know that there is support when they enter into a deal, and there's some advantages in terms of contracting with South African contractors in terms of preferential rates as well as longer tenors and credit terms.
Interest makeup, there's been some developments in that space. Can you just elaborate on those?
Well, with the lack of interest makeup going forward, we have had some changes that enable us now to support non-South African financial institutions, and this is widening the market. It means that for any client that has relationships with international financial institutions that are able to raise dollars at LIBOR, we are able to cover that institution, and they can now also take advantage of whatever margin that institution would price the transaction at, as opposed to just relying on the South African financial institutions that don't have the advantage of raising dollars at LIBOR.
Very quickly, looking at some of the growth in industries across the continent that you've identified.
Infrastructure obviously is the key. There's a lot of rail opportunities. If we're looking at transportation, opening up markets, rail and port opportunities. Power is another key sector that we see a lot of growth in. Obviously, there's always the challenge that with a lot of parastatals, they have to offer subsidized rates. You know that usually they're government-owned subsidized rates, and there's also the challenges with regards to sometimes land and environmental issues when you're expanding across a country and putting out your transmission lines. So with every opportunity, obviously, there are some challenges that arise which maybe cause transactions to slow down. There's also a lot of opportunities on the maritime sector, and as the ECIC, we also have quite a few products that we have to support that sector which is struggling. So we do see, I think, mostly on the infrastructure side. If you're looking also into East Africa, there's a lot of growth. A lot of those countries, they rely on agriculture. There's so many opportunities for agro-processing, not only on an investment side, but also on the project and CapEx side, in terms of in terms of getting South African manufacturers that have that equipment, cashew processing, fruit processing plants, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of opportunities that we've identified on the continent.
How do you link up with other agencies similar to yourselves to drive this sort of intra-Africa trade?
Well, on the African continent, we see that there's a lot of DFIs. So a lot of what we do is we attend conferences, we reach out to them directly. There's a lot of clubs that we are a part of and that we're members of, and we participate in those forums, and as well as just partnering with the governments, the various states, in terms of the investor conferences that they hold, and we partner with them. We obviously have existing relationships with the various institutions, not only just the DFIs, the NEPADs, and so on and so forth. And some of the initiatives that the ECIC has taken is to also invest in the NEPAD Foundation and take a stake and form a desk with them, the Avid desk, and we're partnering with them in terms of identifying opportunities and working together with them, as well as the South African exporters that are involved in the transactions.
Please leave. Thank you so much. That is Portia Gumbo-Dube, who is the head of business development at the ECIC. The Export Credit Insurance Corporation, your export risk partner.